I'd like to call the Monday, October the 9th, 2017 Blue Springs Planning Commission meeting to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by standing. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We have quite an agenda this evening, so I will go through the agenda. The first thing we have will be the consent agenda. Number 2, we have a public hearing for Calamar Senior Living. Number 3, we have a amended plan for Eagles Ridge Estates. Number 4, a preliminary plat for Coronado Holdings. Number 5, the final plat for Coronado Holdings, first plat. Number 6, the amended preliminary plat for amended Eagles Ridge Estates. Number 7, the planned residential overlay final plan for Eagles Ridge. The final plat for Eagles Ridge. We have the planned unit development final plan for the villas at Chapman Farms. The final plat for the villas at Chapman Farms. 11, we have the master alternative sign plan for White Oak Marketplace, Johnny's Tavern, and 12, other business, followed by adjournment. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda, but we do have a change to our minutes, please.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Dale Carter, Councilman District 1 instead of District 2 is a misprint, please.
Okay. So we would need a consent agenda with the correction on the minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
move to accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Duhan? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same sign. All right. The consent agenda is carried. Now we're going to go, we have a public hearing, and let me kind of go over the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. I'll call for exhibits. I'll ask for staff presentation. We'll have questions followed by the commissioners if they have them. I'll ask for the applicant to make their presentation. I'll call for witnesses in favor and those opposed. Will also be followed by any other follow-up questions by the commissioners. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll call for a motion for a vote by the commissioners. So with that, I'm going to call the public hearing to Calamar Senior Living Public Area Plan Development Concept Plan, and I call for exhibits.
Madam Chairman, I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on September 23, 2017. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, a copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title 4, Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Wright, I understand we're going to hear item 2, 4, and 5 together, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And then we will vote on them separately.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chairman Banks and Commissioners. Before you this evening is a request, or 3 requests related to Calamar Senior Living, which is a 132-unit mid-rise apartment building on 7 acres south of Northeast Coronado Drive, immediately east of the Adams Point Golf Course. The first request is for a plan development concept plan for the property, which is required for all residential zoning districts in the Adams Area Parkway overlay. The applicant is proposing a 3-story, 132-unit multifamily apartment building that will provide independent living units for seniors with a wide range of on-site amenities. This building will be centrally located on the site with a loop access drive around the perimeter of the site, with 2 points of access from Northeast Coronado Drive, along with a pedestrian connection to the existing sidewalk. Due to the surrounding area, the stream buffer, and topography on the site, the applicant is requesting to waive any required connections to the adjacent properties. The proposed site plan does meet and exceed the minimum open space requirements for the site, providing more than 23% of the open space, which is over the 15% that is required There's 1.82 acres that has been provided as dedicated open space, which is hatched in these areas. This is the stream, the preserve area, which is part of a stream buffer. And then there's also an open space area here on the east side of the building that will include a patio and a space for outdoor recreation. As mentioned, the site will have 132 units on 7.8 acres, which equates to approximately 16.9 units per acre. The site has met most of the requirements for the mid-rise apartment building type. However, the applicant is requesting to modify the maximum lot area from 2 acres to 7.8 acres, and the number of units from 120 units in one building to 132 units in one building. Based on the number of units, the site is required 242 parking spaces. The applicant is requesting to install 216 spaces, which is a reduction of 26 spaces. This will still allow a minimum of 1.5 spaces per unit. The applicant has also requested to waive the requirement for bicycle parking, as in their experience, bicycle parking has been rarely used in their developments. Bicycle parking can be accommodated in garage stalls as needed. The general layout of the parking lot appears to meet the intent of the parking design standards. The UDC has 2 different parking lot setbacks for multifamily developments. The applicant is requesting to use the less restrictive requirement, which requires a 10-foot parking setback for side and rear property lines as opposed to 30 feet. And then the proposed building elevations, the site, the applicant is proposing a mix of materials, primarily cement board siding with a stone veneer base. Units will include a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms, each with a balcony or outdoor patio. All units are accessed through an internal entryway through internal corridors. All windows will include vinyl shutters, and the roof line also has provided projections and variations with the bump outs with the balconies. And then in addition to the building, they will also be having 48 garage stalls, which are shown there in the lower left, and 4 separate detached structures that will be around the perimeter on the side and on the rear of the building. Final building design and landscaping will be reviewed with the PD final plan and site plan design review. And then the second and third requests are related to a preliminary plat for Coronado Holdings, which includes the entire 20 acres that's shown here. So the 7.8 acres is the portion that's zoned MF18 that is being reviewed with the concept plan. But this is currently part of a larger 20-acre tract that must be subdivided in order for Calamar to purchase just the multifamily zoning portion. So what they have is they have a 2-lot subdivision. The first lot is 7.8 acres, and then the remaining is 12.25 acres. And then they have a for sale only final plat. This does allow a land transaction and the 2 properties to be split for sale. But on these plats, they are not dedicating any easements at this time. Once they have acquired the property, they will be required to come back with a new preliminary plat and final plat that dedicates those easements before they can proceed with construction. Staff does recommend approval of the PD concept plan subject to 7 conditions in the staff report, and the preliminary and final plats, both subject to the 3 conditions in the staff report. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions, Mr. Yes, Mr.
Mr. Wright, I'm not sure I fully understand the mid-level apartment block has a cap of 120 units. If we were not granting the exception to this, where would a 130-unit building fall? What would it be classified, or what would change?
So you could put it in an apartment complex, but since this is just a single building, it falls under the There's a couple of different new apartment type, building types that are in the new UDC. So this is the first time that we have reviewed a project under this building type. So it capped it at 120 units and a maximum lot size of 2 acres. I think the intention of that was that it was a more urban building type where you were going to put it in a more developed area. Does that answer your?
Not really, no. If we didn't have the exception, where would a 132 unit building fall, or is there even an accommodation for it?
I don't think we have an accommodation in the code for a single building like that. Most of them that we've seen that have had more than 120 units, such as the Parkway, some of those larger developments, have all been a PD or PUD. So they're getting that exception through the code to have a larger building.
Okay, because this is a massive building, obviously, you know, and I don't think we've ever looked at anything quite this large, judging by what I can see in the pictures. And
Yes.
I'm just trying to see if we're giving up some kind of a code or change in requirements or anything like that by moving it into this mid-level range.
No, the scaling of the building fits within the mid-rise apartment building based on the height of the building. The mid-rise is for 3 to 5 story apartment buildings, so it fits well within that, and they're only asking for 12 more units than what would typically be allowed.
I do have a question. Have you discussed, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't say anything about the size of the elevators, because if it is senior housing, I don't know where they're located in the building. If 2's enough, it'd say you're going to have 2, they're going to have 2. Does it say where they're located in this big building with 132 units?
We've not reviewed the building plans yet. I'll let the applicant speak to that. I know they have mentioned that they're going to have 2 elevators. And then anything else related to that would be reviewed through the building code process with their building plans.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, would the applicant like to make the presentation? And you will need to be sworn in.
Some swear that the testimony about to give this case will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Did you name and verify?
Jerry Hill, and the Calamar Regional Office is at 6614 South 118th Street in Omaha, Nebraska, 68137. I appreciate the chance to appear before you again tonight. We talked a few weeks ago when we dealt with the zoning, and I don't want to take time and go through our whole history and everything again. I'd be glad to answer anything you can, but just a quick reminder about our typical resident in our facility is a single female in the early 70s. We have couples, we have males in different ages, but our typical resident is early 70s. 60% of our people, residents, sell a house to move into our facility, and about 40% are living in rental property and move in. And most of our residents come within a 15-mile radius of the facility. So it is designed for people that live in the community, no longer want to have the responsibility of a home, but want to stay in their community. We have about 30 communities across the country. We have 3 operating right now in Kansas City. I've never sold one. I mean, we build, we maintain, we operate. We don't just build them and flip them on that. So we pay a lot of attention to our communities, where we put them, do a lot of study about that, and a lot of maintenance on the facilities. We would be excited to be in this community, and I'll be glad to answer any questions with regards to the elevators. If you see the H there, if you just went in that long part of the H, if you put a point in the middle and went about 2/3 of the way down on each of those, towards the wings, that's about where the elevators usually are. The architect, it may vary a little bit, but they're in the long part of the wing, but down towards the little short wings, so that nobody has very far to walk to get to an elevator. Was I clear in what I said in terms of where that would be?
I guess I'll just figure that
Okay.
they're going to be about in the middle between
Yes,
the two.
yes. Everybody in the building has about the same distance to the elevator.
Because, I mean, I have to consider that if you're talking about the early 70s and hauling groceries up and down an elevator and laundry, if they want to have to go down to do the other laundry and, you know, just to come and go, and how far they had to walk. And also for, you know, emergencies, if they have to be hauled out.
Sure. But
You know,
all-
I mean,
all-
if they're not all, it's not just seniors that can live there, but, you know, you have to consider.
Well, it's 55 plus, and so that's our requirement. As I said, most of our individuals, we do not provide medical care, we do not provide meals, so these are independent apartments, and most of the people that move into our facilities stay in our facilities until they need a higher level of care. And we have lots of activities. While we don't provide meals and health care, we have a lot of common areas. This facility will have a lounge, a library, a community room, a game room, a theater room, a yoga room, a workout room, a chapel, a classroom, and then a variety of amenities on the outside as well. So we have a full-time staff person that programs for our residents. So even though it's not medical, it's very much a community.
Well, I have you, could I ask what kind of secured access they're going to have? Is it a key card?
Is a key card, is that what it is?
It's a key fob.
Key fob.
Key fob? Oh,
Key
that's
fob.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got. And then, one more thing, but I'm sorry to hog the mic, but I noticed you didn't want any bike racks. And is there any reason that there couldn't be at least 4? Because
No.
you don't, it's not going to all have to be 55.
Well, Matt, well, nobody can be below 55, but it's a
Yeah,
55 plus community.
Okay, that's
But
what
in
you're going
answer
to
to
have.
your question, Matt raised that with me earlier, and we'd have no problem putting a section of bike racks by the door. We typically don't have people use bikes, but there might be an exception, so we would have no problem. We have not done so in the other facilities here, but we do have facilities in other parts of the country that we put bike racks, so we'd be glad to do that.
Well, you're out there by Adams Dairy, and
That's
it's a
right.
beautiful place to go ride. And,
If somebody's able to do that, it's a great area to do it.
well, I
So-
still am.
So, okay, all right. All right, well, we'll,
Not that I'm
have-
moving or anything, but
we have no problem doing that. So
I
that-
thought, you know, if in just a small
Sure,
4-rack or something like that would be better than
Sure.
not having one at all. If they want to come in and just park it and go up and do whatever and then
Sure,
come back down.
come back.
So,
You're right.
okay, any other questions?
What is the average price of your unit?
These units will range from right at $940 to about $1,250. There'll be 3 different type units, and they range on that. There's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 2-bedroom, 1.5-bath unit in the facilities.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner?
I'd like to go back to the bikes a minute here.
Okay.
I guess I'm even a little bit stronger than what you're thinking here. I see this as an active senior community, you know, and I definitely think there are going to be some of these residents who are going to want to have a bicycle, and I don't think they're all going to be the ones who have the 48 garage units, and they're going to want a place to store those bikes. I'd like to see more than, I don't think we need 132 of them, no. But I'd like to see like 20 or 25 bike spaces.
Well, maybe one
So that
end
not
and-
only for the residents, but also children or grandchildren who maybe want to bike over and visit these people, I would like to see a significant amount of bike spaces for those people. So like I said, maybe 25 spaces or something like that, rather than just 4. But I definitely think that is something that should be in there, and not, because these are, by your own description, you know, able-bodied, active seniors, and bike riding is good exercise for all ages.
Sure. I don't know how that proceeds procedurally, but we're very open to that. So if staff can take note of that when we submit our plans.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hill, can you tell me, is 1.5 parking spots, are those assigned to each unit, or are they open for anybody to?
No, they're open for anyone. I had our regional leasing people for the Midwest do an analysis of our vehicles at our facilities. And our facilities that are this size, we typically will have between 75 and 80 cars. And then the other residents won't have cars. And of course, we have 48 garages, and the people with cars, some people without cars get garages, but mainly it's people with cars that get garages. So that gives rise to the our request to not have as much pavement around it. But that's generally what our usage is on vehicles. We provide some transportation to people as they need it, depending upon situations and all that, especially as the building begins to get stabilized and you get more residents there. But one of the wonderful things about this location is its closeness to all of the retail that's right there. We look for, as I said a few weeks ago, the two major things we look for are retail and medical, and this site is dynamite on both of those. And on our demographic study we've done of a variety of cities in the metro area, this site comes up extremely high in terms of demand. And if you're familiar with independent senior living in eastern Jackson County, virtually all of them have waiting lists at this point to get in. There's a big demand for independent living in eastern Jack.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hill, what kind of security do you provide?
Well, the buildings are locked, and the key fob, we have staff there. We have three staff people, but we do not provide like security guards and those kinds of things during the night after the building is sealed.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd call for any witness that would be in favor of this proposal. Any witness opposed? All right, commissioners, do you have any comments that you'd like on open record?
I would like to ask staff, because it's not actually mentioned in the recommendations here, if we want to adjust this bike waiver, where would we do that?
You can add a condition
It would be an added
to
condition.
the concept plan.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? I thought I saw another hand.
Well, I just was kind of along with the bike. I'm kind of in agreement with him. I mean, Blue Springs has done a lot to really promote bicycle riding and the bike lanes and all of this stuff. And the fact that it is close to shopping and that kind of thing, I'm thinking at least maybe 10 racks on each end of the building for a total of 20, if that's something that's feasible to do.
Not so visible out right in the front. Yes.
I was just wondering what the regular requirements are for bikes in a building of this type.
For multifamily, it's one space per unit, so they would have been required 132 bike spaces.
Yeah, I don't think we need that many.
I don't think we need that many, but I don't want to waive it completely.
Right.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comments? I'm going to close the public hearing. All right. I would entertain a motion if anyone so chooses.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Billups.
I would like to move for approval of PDC 09176024 with the 7 staff conditions and an 8th condition changing the waiver of the amendment of the bike requirement to 20 spaces.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Duhan. This is a roll call.
Planning Commissioner Cradoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan,
Aye.
Commissioner Billups,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Motion, recommend it go to the City Council October the 16th at 6 p.m. And now we are going to go ahead and have a voice vote, since we heard 4 and 5 also together.
Madam Chair,
Right? Okay, yes, sir.
I would move for approval of PP 09176022, the preliminary plat for Coronado Holdings with the 3 recommendations.
Okay,
Second?
I hear a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Now, the final plat will be a voice vote.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir?
I would also move for approval of PF 09176023 with the 3 staff recommendations.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Commissioner Duhan, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that does go to the City Council on October the 16th, and again, that's at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we are going to go ahead and go to item number 6. And then we did that one. Yeah. 3. We go to item 3. And we can hear 3 and 6 together. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. The public hearing on amended Eagles Ridge Estates, and I call for exhibits.
Madam Chairman, I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on September 9, 2017. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title 4 Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference. And 9, email dated 9/13/17 from Steve Holloway Sr., Traffic Specialist, MoDOT, regarding right-of-way access onto Route 7 for Major Road.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Jury.
Thank you, Chairman Banks and Planning Commissioners. Before you today is the request for the preliminary plat and the planned residential overlay concept plan for Eagles Ridge Estates and Eagles Ridge Villas PRO. You've heard this a few times in the past, but I will go over just some of the basics of it to just refresh and provide some information on the property itself. The property is located on the east side of 7 Highway, approximately where 7 Highway intersects with the existing Southwest Eagles Ridge Drive. A portion of this property has already been developed, and the amendment is really for the future remaining phases of Eagles Ridge subdivision. There's approximately 111 acres, and altogether, the entire development, including the existing, does include 540 dwelling units, approximately 14,900 square feet of restaurant space, 139,000 square feet of retail space in this 153-acre subdivision. And again, that does include all of the existing as well as the proposed. It is zoned single-family, two-family, multifamily, and general business with a PRO overlay, planned residential overlay. The developer is not requesting to change any of the proposed plans except for a couple minor, or one dealing with Major Road, and then a couple small adjustments to the proposed plan, already approved plan. First, the developer is requesting that they may be allowed to move forward with the next phase of the two-family area, which is phase 3 of the residential, and without installing Major Road prior to final plat approval. That was one of the conditions of approval when this was heard back in 2016, that Major Road does have to go in before the final plat was approved. But their request for this is based on timing, and I'll let the applicant answer any questions on that. But staff did have some concerns with allowing this to go forward, but we came up with a solution that if the developer is willing to sign a restrictive covenant that limits his ability to sell the property, and also limits the allowance for him to obtain building permits on that property, or sorry, building occupancy on that property, then staff would be willing to move forward with the phase 3 of the Eagles Ridge subdivision if Major Road is installed prior to those two things. This does protect the city from the situation where a separate property owner could buy the land from the current developer, and they would be required or wouldn't be allowed to obtain building occupancy and occupy their improvements on that land or something other than that unless Major Road was installed, which would be the responsibility of someone else rather than the person that owned the land. So this just does protect the city's interest in trying to get Major Road installed, and gives us a little bit of leverage in requiring the current property owner and developer to install that prior to obtaining building occupancy or being able to sell that land. And that does apply to just the two-family area on this project. A couple other small changes I will mention. The original PRO concept plan, when it was approved in 2016, there was a misunderstanding between the developer and the city staff. When originally proposed, the developer mentioned that he would match the existing homes in terms of livable or minimum livable floor area for the single-family houses. City staff understood that to be matching what was approved on the final plat of the existing single-family area, which was a 2,000 square foot minimum. The developer had the understanding that it was supposed to be matching the HOA deed restrictions, which was 1,800 square feet minimum, with the exception of a 1,600 square foot house if it's a true ranch. Staff does believe, since this is what is already in place with the HOA, it appears that the HOA is okay with that, and staff does believe that this amendment is acceptable. A third minor amendment that actually probably could just be approved through the PRO final plan, but staff did think it would be helpful to include it in this, is the open space in phase 3 is being reduced by 0.08 acres, and it will be added back in phase 5 of the next two-family phase after phase 3. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the preliminary plat and the PRO concept plan with 21 staff conditions. I'll stand for any questions.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Jury? Yes, Commissioner Billups.
Madam Chair, Mr. Drew, I want to make sure I fully understand this Major Road change. So what we're saying here is that as currently in place, they have to have Major Road built before they can get a final plat, and thereby before they could even start any construction. And what they're asking for is to be allowed to do the final plat and actually build the units, just not sell or occupy them until Major Road is completed.
Correct.
Okay.
And the main purpose for this was a timing issue for the developer, trying to run the buildings and Major Road concurrently. He does expect to have Major Road installed well before any occupancy for the buildings would come up. But But staff does just want to make sure that the city's protected in the case of the sale of the
My
property.
only concern about the switch is that that's going to then have all the construction traffic possibly going through the existing subdivision as opposed to using Major Road to access the new site.
That is correct. That is a concern.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
With that concern, is there something in place or could be put into place if those roads were damaged because of all of the construction equipment and such going back and forth, that they would have to be repaired?
I might have to push that over to Public Works.
We do have a hotline for potholes that the city would repair, but you could certainly put that recommendation on the developer if you so desire, to have them repair the roads.
Okay.
But like I say, we have a hotline, so for specific potholes, we would go out there and fix the potholes.
Is there any further discussion?
Well, I'm kind of thinking if it's damage from the construction, that cost.
I'm not thinking potholes, I'm thinking
Yeah.
actual structural
I mean,
damage to the
I
road.
get potholes from weather and stuff being on the city, but damage from the construction itself, I don't think should fall onto the city.
Well, I'm thinking also of just the inconvenience to the existing residents of those heavy equipment moving through their streets as opposed to going up against the new major. But I'd like to hear from the applicant before I get into some of that.
Right, okay.
Commissioner Haney?
Curious question, was the major road requirement a part to the original owner, developer? Or has this been added?
Are you talking about when it was originally developed in 2005?
Right. The other or previous owner.
Yeah, the previous owner was required to put in Major Road with the next phase of residential, which would have been this coming phase. We allowed him to build the existing duplex and multifamily area, which does abut, this area down here, which abuts Southwest Major Road. We allowed him to develop that prior to installing Major Road, with the understanding that he would, that the housing market was going well and he'd build the next phase relatively quickly. But a few years later, we're in this predicament.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess a question on that end, since we kind of got left hanging once, are there any loopholes by which we could get left again without being done?
I might put that question on the city attorney. She wrote the restrictive covenant on the sale of the property. We can definitely hold the occupancy and the developer's ability to gain income, I guess, from the properties, the residential properties. So we have that power. As far as the sale of the property, that's the only other issue that the city saw at this point, but I'll let the city attorney address that.
Okay. So your question is, what would keep them from developing it further if they hadn't completed Major Road?
Well, that, or, I mean, obviously we thought we addressed that the first time around and it got through, so is there anything in there that maybe it could slide through again, and if so, how could we protect that, or do you feel like it's pretty solid the way it is?
Well, this document that is, if it's approved tonight and then if the city council approves it, it will be recorded. It's a declaration of covenants running with the land, restricting future sales affecting the land. And it's recorded and it becomes notice to any potential purchaser of the property that's described in it.
Okay.
And a title company would pick it up and would not issue a policy on a sale. So that's going to keep anyone from moving into buying a home, and maybe not keep them from moving in, but it'll keep them from buying the property. And then the staff is going to require that no permits be issued, no occupancy permits be issued until Major Road is completed. And it's completed to Tennessee Avenue?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that would also include then, if they can't get an occupancy, if they're getting a loan, their lender won't close on it.
Correct.
So we could be sitting there with a lot of houses that nobody can close because the road's not in. And then we're looking at weather, depending on when that time might be.
I would ask the developer.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Would the applicant like to please come forward, make their presentation? You'll need to be sworn in.
Someone swearing the testimony about giving space, give the truth, something like that.
I do.
Need your name.
David Ward, Ward Development, 1120 Eagle Ridge Boulevard, Green Valley, Missouri. Okay. I've been around for 40-some years here in Blue Springs, developing in Green Valley. So, these are duplexes. We own them, keep them. I don't sell hardly anything ever. So this is a project that we're going to own and have ongoing for a long time. But let's talk about the Major Road a little bit. And not kind of beating a dead bush here, but and none of the staff here was here at the time. But this project was approved without Major Road with over 200 plus units. That's something that is never done with only having one access to the property. Major Road should have gone in with these two phases back originally. Now again, staff wasn't here at that time, but by their own ordinances, it should have gone in. So we're actually required to put it in. The thing that's held this up substantially is dollars. Our requirement is to put half road improvement in. And that half road improvement comes to $600,000. It costs about $1.2 million to put the entire road in from front to back. So we've been discussing, negotiating where $100,000 takes us to. Well, it only takes us to the first entryway, to the coming off Major Road, the $600,000, because there's so much at 7 Highway expenses that has to be put in at 7 Highway. Again, the 7 Highway design has changed with the city back and forth 2 or 3 times, so that's kind of slowed things down too. But in one of the hearings here, which I don't know who, there was some statement about the road going to Tennessee. So eventually, just here recently, we agreed to it. It's cost me $200,000 more out of my pocket to take that road to Tennessee, which I shouldn't have to pay. So that's what the holdup on Major Road has been. We have got started on construction now on it. We are signing these agreements to get Major Road in. So we are progressing forward, but that gives you a little history of why Major Road has been held up. Our streets are in our subdivision, utilities are in, we're ready to start construction. I don't want to set another 3 months and not do anything on the project while we have that much investment there. As for the square footage, I believe Parker Construction originally, when they came forward, was a 2,000 square foot on the residential up there. We actually were somewhat involved with Summit Homes and Salee Homes, because we own the other duplexes, when they established their homeowner association. And I thought at the time, because it all went in as recorded as 1,800 square feet. That's when I said I would agree to be at the same square footage as existing people in there. So the restrictions at 2,000 foot never got recorded. I don't believe there was a restrictions ever recorded, was there?
The final plat was recorded.
The final plat, but there was no restrictions actually filed. I think he gave you a copy, but never got filed. So that's the reason why we're asking for the 1,800 to match exactly what's there with the residents there. I think that was the last item. Was there one more item?
Just the open space, but that was
right. The open space is like 1/10 of an acre that we'll be adding on to one of the other areas. I think it came off of the pool, so we're having to put a pool in too. We're spending between $250,000 and $300,000 on a pool that Parker Construction also promised to put in. So we're doing that in this phase here now. As soon as we get the plat approved, we'll be able to. And actually, utilities going in and streets going in on the single family as we speak. So we're moving quickly. So we're just trying to beat the weather.
Yeah. Okay, are there any questions for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner.
And maybe you just answered this, and I just want to make sure we're all clear. how much of a time difference are we looking at here between what's there right now versus what you want to do?
I would say we're probably 45 to 60 days of having Major Road completed with the walking trails and everything on it. What we have, we're actually ready to start construction on the lots. They're developed out and ready to go. So that's the main thing. We were trying to get through this and get started on the duplexes. Construction-wise, I mean, we're probably looking 4 or 5 months down the road before we'll even want to look at needing an occupancy. So Major Road will be in way ahead of that. I mean, Cat Construction just pulled in. They got their equipment already put in storm sewers now.
So you're ready to start construction on the duplexes?
On the duplexes, yes.
Are you ready to start construction on Major and they'll be
They're
going on
already
at
started.
the same time?
Yep, they've already started. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I said Cat Construction's got their equipment in there already set in storm sewer boxes. And I would say they should have it done in 45 days, Major Road.
Okay, because I understand the time elements and all of that and winter coming on
Right.
and all of that. I just don't want to end up with a bunch of built units
Right.
that we're
Right.
waiting for Major Road to come in.
Yeah, that'll be my gamble. Actually, it'd be my gamble to make sure we get it in. Yes.
And they sit there empty and, deteriorating or something because nobody's there to do anything.
Right.
And again, the whole idea of the construction traffic with the existing with the existing occupants, how are you going to try and mitigate that?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping by the time that a lot of the heavy stuff gets rolling in there, concrete trucks and all, our lumber trucks, Major Road to be in at that time. We got excavation, we got to do footings, foundations.
That requires concrete trucks.
It will. I mean, and they will be coming down the main road there. I mean, that's just inevitable. Yeah, until we get Major Road going. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
What time element are you going to provide with the construction? Will it be in the morning, at night? And do you foresee any problem with the residents?
No, not really. I think there is a concern of the people that live there now is speed limit. And I think that's something that's got to be really talk to the subcontractors to make sure the speed limit through there is adhered by. Because there's 3 ways they can get it back. Once they make the front entryway, there's 3 ways. More than likely, they'll come to the south road and come around instead of straight up through the residential. But, I mean, that's something that we'll have to be aware of is the speed limit mainly. Keeping them down to 20 or 25, whatever the speed limit is. Yeah. But as for time frame, like I said, we're ready to start construction on the duplexes. Probably take about 5 months to construct those. Hopefully, in 45 to 60 days, Major Road will be built.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would call for any witnesses in favor that would like to speak. Are there any witnesses opposed that would like to speak? Hearing none. Commissioners, do you have anything that you'd like to say on the record?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Any oppositional letters received on this?
No, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we will have a voice on the preliminary plat and a roll call on the overlay concept plan. So I would entertain a motion. Which would you like first?
Concept.
Concept plan.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to approve amended plat residential overlay concept plan 09176-008, amended Eagles Ridge with the 21 conditions.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Awesome. Yes. All right, this is a roll call vote.
Planning Commissioner Casey?
Aye.
Commissioner Peel?
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan?
Aye.
Commissioner Billups?
Aye.
Commissioner Haney?
Aye.
Commissioner Credoff?
Aye.
Chairman Banks?
Aye. Okay, now we'll do the preliminary plat. I would entertain a motion on the preliminary plat.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Haney?
make a motion to approve amended preliminary plat BP 09176007.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Sanderson? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carried. That was the preliminary plat. All right, so I thank you very much on those. Okay, now we will go to Eagles Ridge Planned Residential Overlay Final Plan. And we will also hear the final plat, both of those together, and vote on them separately.
Thank you,
All right.
Chairman Banks.
Thank you,
Planning
Mr.
Commission. Before you today, the applicant is now also requesting the PRO final plan and final plat for Eagles Ridge Villas, the next phase of two-family, or the phase 3, as we were talking about earlier. It incorporates 43 lots, approximately 15 acres, and 3 open space tracts, A, B, and C. It is a two-family PRO zoning, and as you can see here, it does incorporate Major Road, which, as previously mentioned, and pending City Council approval as well, will be allowed to move forward with the building permits prior to final plat approval, as long as occupancy and the sale of the lot is held until Major Road is installed. The landscape plan here shown does meet all of the street tree requirements. It is short a few landscape plant units in the open space category, which staff does recommend that prior to building permit approval, the landscape plan must be amended and revised and submitted to staff, along with a few other minor changes as well. And the one of those minor changes also is the elevations on these duplexes provided by the developer. The garages under the old code that is allowed to be developed, that this subdivision is allowed to be developed as a grandfathered subdivision. It retained its PRO from the old UDC from 1996, and the old UDC's provisions apply to this development in that case. And under those 1996 provisions, we did have a requirement that garages, if set side by side, must be offset at least 2 feet and no more than 4 feet. So those building plans must be revised to accommodate that provision. And here are just a few other elevations showing what the developer has proposed, and a couple building plans. And this one does show the offset here, as you can see, between the two garages, but a few of the other ones don't, or a couple of the other ones don't. With that, I'll review over the final plat as well. The final plat does show Major Road, and developer will be required to install that and the associated sidewalk and trail improvement on the south side of 8-foot trail on the south side of Major Road. But I believe we've mentioned most of what the requirements were on this final plat, just the requirements for installing Major Road with building occupancy and sale of the lot being held. There's a few outstanding items, such as the development maintenance agreement, as-built 2-year maintenance bonds required prior to final plat approval for City Council, along with a few other smaller things that need to be addressed prior to City Council approval. So Staff does believe that the applicant will get those here shortly and hopefully be able to move forward with that final plat at City Council in a timely manner. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the final plat and final plan for the Eagles Ridge Villas PRO with 12 staff conditions.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Jury? Okay, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
The one building that has I think we have like 6 different elevations, and I think there was one that submitted that didn't have it. It will be adjusted to meet that 2-foot offset where the side-by-side garages are.
Okay.
Yeah, and then everything else, I think we've got worked out, whatever details, the bonds and different things like that, we're getting those acquired from our subcontractors, and so everything should be in order. Yeah.
Is there any questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, hearing none, I would entertain a motion. We will vote on the planned residential overlay first.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Phillips.
I would move for approval of the PROF 09176000 planned residential overlay final plan for Eagles Ridge Villas with the 12 staff conditions.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Duhan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. All right, now next we will vote on the Eagle Ridge final plat. That's item number 8 on our agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Billups.
also move for approval of PF 09176001, the first plat, the final plat of the first plat of Eagles Ridge Villas PRO.
Okay,
with 12 conditions.
Thank you, sorry. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Sanderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, just to let you know, the Eagle Ridge concept plan and as well as the final plat will be heard by the City Council, both of those items on October the 16th at 6 p.m., just as a reminder. All right, thank you. Now we're on to item 9 and 10, which we will hear together. This is the villas at Chapman Farms, the plan unit development, final plan, and then the final plat. So, items 9 and 10. Did we vote? Did I vote? Did I vote? Yeah. All those in favor? Did I? Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, Chairman
Okay,
Banks.
sorry, thank you. We're just conferring up here.
And Commission. Before you this evening are 2 requests related to the villas at Chapman Farms. The first request is a PUD final plan for the third and final phase of the villas, which includes 29 lots and 3 tracts on 8.24 acres. The site is generally located north of the first plat and east of the second plat, north of Southeast Sun Garden Street, and generally west of Southeast 2nd Street. The lot layout and sizes match the amended preliminary plat, with the exception of the loss of 1 lot right here, which has been turned into a detention basin, which is now shown as tract in. The second request is for a final plat for the same location, 8.24 acres, 29 lots, and 3 tracts. All sidewalks and common tracts in all 3 phases have been completed as required. An escrow for the trail extension in the second phase, which is in this area right here, has been escrowed and is required to be installed prior to the issuance of any building permits for the third plat. And then also all landscaping in the common open space tracts in both in all the first, second, and third phases must all be completed as well. We have received an escrow for that, and that must be completed and released before we will issue any building permits for the third plat as well. The minimum livable floor area classification for the subdivision is 1,400 square feet. Home styles will match the homes that are currently under development in the second phase. And the existing declaration of restrictions that is in place for the first and second plat will be extended to this as well, and that must be recorded with the final plat. All sidewalk sections, street trees, and lot landscaping must be installed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for each lot. And then staff does recommend approval of the PD final plan with 14 conditions, and the final plat subject to 14 conditions. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? No. Would the applicant like to make a presentation of any kind?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Paul Miller
Paul
with Davidson Architecture and Engineering. This is the final 28 lots, or 29 lots, excuse me, of the villas at Chapman Farms, which closes out that portion of the original Lot 19 of Chapman Farms. So this is the final portion of the villas. And I think the developer is completing all of his requirements and agrees with all of the stipulations or recommendations for the staff. So if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Gather not. Thank you very much. Okay. We will vote on them separately. I would entertain a motion then for item 9, which is the Villas Plan Unit Development Final Plan.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Duhan.
I make a motion that we approve plan case number PUDF 09-17-6039 with the 12 staff conditions.
14.
14 staff conditions.
Would you like to amend that then? 14. Yes. Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Billups? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to item number 10, which is the final plat of the villas at Chapman Farms. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Duhan.
I move that we approve Plan PF 09-17-6018 with the 14 staff conditions.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Billups? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. Now that is the final plat of the villas at Chapman Farms, third plat, which will be heard by the City Council also on October the 16th at 6 p.m. All right. Now we will go to item number 11, which is the White Oak Marketplace Johnny Tavern's Master Alternative Sign Plan. And Mr. Jury?
Thank you, Chairman Banks and Commissioners. The Master Alternative Sign Plan application was submitted by the applicant, Midwest Sign Company, and they are asking on behalf of Johnny's Tavern and the property owner Development Associates to modify the existing master sign plan that was approved back in June 2017. And the only portion of this master sign plan that they are proposing to amend is the tenant space of where Johnny's Tavern is moving in to allow a sign that is larger than what was previously approved. The previous approval allowed a sign of 84 square feet in their location for that tenant space. But now they are asking for a sign that is 189 square feet, which does allow, or which increases significantly the size of that tenant space sign. It's similar in size to some of the other existing signs that are shown for Price Chopper. There's a 160 square foot sign for Price Chopper on number 34, sign number 34 over here. There's a 270 square foot sign approximately on the front of Price Chopper. Price Chopper being the main tenant, it's understandable that they do have a larger sign than everyone else. But this being a tenant, and also the increase of the request does put the total sign area for the entire development 5 square feet over what the entire development of White Oaks is allowed to have. The entire development is allowed 2,320 square feet, and the proposal brings them to a total of 2,326 almost square feet. So staff is requesting them to reduce the sign size by 5 square feet, only allowing a 184 square foot sign to bring them underneath the maximum sign area allowed for the entire site. They are within the 10% rule for any wall sign, so staff doesn't think that that should play any factor into this. So with that, staff does recommend approval with 2 staff conditions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Billups.
I'm testing my memory here, and I drive by this thing every day and I look at it. They've installed awnings over those windows in that portion. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure it is. That you kind of shown them on there, but it's kind of hard to see because it's not a 3D rendering. And it looks like that sign is going to either cause the removal of one of those awnings, or it's going to stick out so that it doesn't. How is that? It just seems like it's going to. I'm not so worried about the square footage as the shape of it. I'd rather have something that was more linear instead of more square. I don't know. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that those awnings don't get displaced to help break up that facade. Is that something that we can?
Yeah, if Planning Commission wants to move that way, then that's definitely a condition that you can recommend keeping those awnings in place as that architectural feature, and making sure that whatever sign is approved does not remove the awnings.
Mr. Jury, is there anyone else that's going to request any signage that may go in that we don't are aware of, that they're going to take up all the extra signage?
This was signed by the property owner Development Associates, this application, so if they're willing to give the extra sign area to Johnny's Tavern, then I'm assuming that they aren't going to give it to anyone else.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any other conversation? Would the applicant like to come forward? Hello.
Good evening. Hi. If anybody has any questions, that is correct. The awnings have been installed.
So this is going to require the removal of one of the awnings, or what's going to happen
Yes,
here?
just the center awning will be removed. And we did recommend, because I agree with that we did recommend to fabricate a flat, more architectural awning that isn't going to intrude into the sign band as much as those awnings do. Still waiting on approval for that from the landlord, but
Because those awnings were kind of the only thing that broke up that. I mean, obviously there's a change in materials there too, but that flat side, I hate to see an awning that just went up come down just for a sign.
True, that's true, but if we leave that awning in place, that shrinks the sign back down to not 84 square feet, but it shrinks it down so small that with that logo, you're not going to be able to read it from the road.
Well, and I'm not trying to redesign a sign or anything, but it seems like if you could put the arrow beside the circle instead of underneath the circle, you know. And and trust me, I really am looking forward to Johnny's coming in. I don't want to do
unfortunately,
something
that's
that's going to cause Johnny's to back out of the deal, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's their logo and their trademark, so this would be the only location that would have something that was different, but I don't know how we would modify that, but.
I just hate to.
What if we go with 3 different style of awnings other than those pitched?
I hate to take out an architecture element just for a sign.
Is there any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Is that the only reason that you want to modify it, is because you can't see it from the
Yes,
from the
yes,
road?
visibility is key.
Is it illuminated constantly?
Yes, internally illuminated. The visibility is definitely our top priority with this.
And sir, what was your name? I'm sorry.
Jason, Midwest Sign Company.
I'm sorry?
Jason Yeager.
Jason Yeager. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
can the sign be raised any to be above the awning? Or is the awning, even if you raised it, I mean, does that still fit within the city code, and would that allow it more visibility?
When I looked at the awning installation when they did it, if you are there in person, the awnings, in my opinion, are too high. It doesn't go with the. If you look at the that first V-groove detail above the top window mullion, the awnings, the top of the awnings should have been even with that V-groove detail, which is just right above those light fixtures, those 3 pod lights. That's where the top of the awnings should have landed. I don't know why they put them that high. I don't know if that was a mistake on the installer's behalf, or I don't think they should have been that high. Because in fact, there's light fixtures on that building that are indoor rated light fixtures, and they've put them, right now they're above the awnings, and they're not outdoor rated light fixtures. So currently they're full of water and short circuiting. So those should have landed below the awnings, but they put the awnings, the placement of the awnings and light fixtures and everything out there is not correct. The awnings need to be lowered.
So can you lower the same awnings, or do they have to be smaller?
No, we could lower the awnings so that they cover those top row windows, which is also what Johnny's wanted to also cut down on heat and sun. All of their tables and bar area are right behind those windows. So the awnings being that high, it's causing too much sunlight and heat to come through the windows. So another problem with those awnings being mounted so high.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
There's presently, so I understand there's an awning over all 3 awnings, is that right?
Yes.
And the sign's going to remove one, but there'll still be an awning on each side?
Yes.
After the sign?
Mm-hmm.
That's it, for the sign, the loss of one awning, that's not going to change the front of the building that much, in my opinion, but, so.
Well, if I
I'd say we
could.
go with the larger, just larger sign.
Well, you're more than doubling the size of the sign that was originally, it was 84 square feet. You've gone to 189.
Yes.
Is there any way that we, to keep the 3 awnings and that you could still have a good size sign without going all the way to 189 square feet? And raise it up to where they could still see it?
The 189 square feet, that sounds like a lot, but for facade utilization, with considering the size of their storefront, that's only 5%. And the city standard is 10%, so we're already at half of that. And what the master sign plan stated at 84 square feet, that's only 2% facade utilization. So that's so small that, readability from the road is next to nil.
Well, it is illuminated, right?
It is illuminated, but you also need to focus on daytime readability too, not just night. But also it gets worse at night when it lights up. If the sign is tiny, it just turns into a illuminated blur to traffic.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Casey?
I just wanted to say that I think moving moving them down would be a good solution to this. I don't know if this is the right place to be doing that, but maybe we could continue discussing that at some point.
I don't know that we have, if we have the control to tell the owner what to do.
Part of the sign code does require that the signs be cognizant of the existing architectural features. So if Planning Commission did want to enforce that under their direction, then we could require something to that effect.
I doubt that the property owners would, I mean, I'm sure they'd be open to modifying the awnings, replacing the awnings, doing whatever we need to do to accommodate that sign. They want the sign that size, and they've signed off of it, and
Have they discussed it with you, the awning that they put up that would cause an interference with your sign and what they would?
yes, yeah.
Did they put that in writing, they're willing to take it down?
Yes, yeah. When we install the sign, we'll have to take the awning down and take the light fixtures down, which that's
And
what
you have that in writing, that that's all right?
Yes.
Do we have a copy of that letter?
You don't? Oh, I can certainly get that for you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
Mr. Yeager, is that sign, that particular sign is facing the east, is that correct?
Yes.
So it's facing 7th Highway?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam
comments?
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Diamond.
So I'm trying to visualize this here, and I understand what is going after for the sign, and I get that. But I also get the aesthetics of the building from all the traffic on 7 Highway. So is there a possible compromise where maybe they can either lower the awnings to where you think they should have been in the first place? And if so, is that going to give enough room for that sign, or are the awnings still going to be too big to fit that sign in there?
No, we could lower all three awnings. I believe on that elevation, those 3 awnings are the only awnings on that facade.
Mm-hmm.
So we could lower the awnings to where the top of the awning is right at the top of the window mullion, and that would basically solve all of our problems here. It would give us enough room to install the sign, and it would also cover the windows to where Johnny's Tavern prefers to keep sunlight and heat out of the inside.
And move the lights as well?
Yes. Well, the lights would actually be eliminated. We could reinstall them on the window mullions, but the lights are actually mounted on the building above those window mullions. So we would have to remove the lights.
Is that something we can ask for?
We can ask for all kinds of things, whether we can.
It depends on if we don't have anything in writing and they're not here to say, yes, they're in agreement, that they would be willing to do that, so.
I'm not sure how to get it done, but I'm thinking that might solve 2 birds with 1 stone there if they don't remove the awnings but lower them to where he thinks they should be to begin with, and then put the sign above them. Then we still have the sign that they need, but we also still have the aesthetics of the awning up there.
Well, I gather we can make it a condition that they lower them, and if they don't, then they can't put that size of sign there.
Yeah, I think we could make a condition that the awnings be adjusted and not removed.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I believe Mr. Miller is actually represents Davidson Architecture, who is the primary architect on the Price Chopper White Oak Marketplace project. So
thank you. I'm sorry I didn't see it there.
Oh, no problem. Good evening. I do represent Davidson Architecture and Engineering, and the awnings that are on the building right now, as well as the light fixtures, are all architectural features that have gone through a lot of scrutiny for this project. And at this time, all of that stuff has been approved. So it's not really our intent to modify those at this time.
But
So-
we're talking about removing one of them, so we are talking about modifying these elements.
But the existing, or the features that are there are still architectural components of the building. As a matter of fact, you were talking about raising the height of the sign, and there's an architectural feature across the top of that building that is to define the top portion of that building in that area. So all of this stuff that you're talking about is changing the architectural features that were designed originally in the building. And I understand that you're saying we're going to remove the center awning, but part of the architectural features that we were looking for were the two that would remain. And if you stripped out of all of those awnings, then basically you're changing the entire architectural features along that face of the building. So
you're saying the same would be true to even lower them?
yes, because they become less visible, and the idea originally was to use those features to break up the facade of the building. So that's part of the architectural components that we put into the building to satisfy some of the city requirements, is to break up those facades so that they're not just a straight, wall, and that they have three-dimensional features. So
I don't know how that makes a difference between, we're not speaking of taking them off.
Speak into the mic, please.
We're not speaking of taking them off and just leaving them off completely. I get what he's saying about the architectural element and the detail, but I don't understand the opposition to just lowering them 3 feet. That you still have the awnings and you still have the architectural detail, you're just lowering them 3 feet.
But when you do that, you're covering up part of the window mullions.
Which is
so
yeah.
So you're lowering that, which takes away part of the glass feature that was part of that original design intent.
Which is like a greenhouse in the summer.
Could I ask you a question? I can't
Yes.
remember. The light tan area, have any awnings?
No.
Okay, what I was thinking is, why couldn't you move your tavern sign and change the arrow direction, and then you wouldn't have to change any awnings?
You're talking about the sign itself, the Johnny sign?
Change where the sign is. Instead of over where the darker brick is, change it over to the lighter brick, but just change the arrow to go from one direction to the other. And then we don't have to mess with the awnings, and it'll show up even better.
Because I'm not sure exactly which units the Johnny's is occupying, because I know the ones to the...
I don't know either.
So it may not be over the actual Johnny's portion of the building.
Well, it wouldn't be, not if it's an arrow pointing to where the door is.
It is.
It is?
Johnny's has those 3 windows plus the 2 to the right. Those 5 banks.
2 to the right.
Those 5 banks of windows, that's all Johnny's Tavern.
So you have the 2 other ones to the... Can you move your sign over and move the arrow going the other direction?
It might even show up better on the light.
Because...
On the beige portion?
On the beige portion, and then you can keep your awnings, and then you've got more attraction. And keep your size.
That I'm not familiar with. We didn't survey that portion of the building when it came to installing the sign.
Well, you didn't know about the awnings, though, did you?
At the time, no, they weren't installed yet.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. I'm
curious to know, is there going to be any type of signage that will be out in front of the street that specifies what's there in the facility?
There's, I believe so.
There will be a pylon sign or large monument sign.
The monument sign.
So you will be able to identify, besides the sign that he's talking about, that they actually are there?
Yes, it'll be on the, kind of like what you see out there at Adams Point, Adams Dairy.
So if Planning Commission does want to continue that's always an option. I don't know if there's enough clarity tonight in the intention of the builder, developer, property owner, and the sign installer.
Could I ask when Johnny's is planning on opening?
We hope in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's not much time. I just, per the previous discussion, the easiest way to solve this is just to simply lower the awnings above the windows, which cuts down on the heat in the summer. And the awnings stay in place. There's still the architectural detail that Davidson Architecture wants. The sign fits the facade, and the inside of the restaurant's cooler in the summer, and everybody's happy.
Our problem is, I don't know that we can ask the landlord to lower them because the sign wasn't measured with the awnings. So somebody's not communicating with somebody.
Yeah, and at the time when we surveyed it, the awnings had not yet been installed, and I didn't see those on our architectural drawings. But I'm also here representing not only Johnny's Tavern, but the owner that has approved this. So
I know. So, does anybody have any other comments or suggestions? Motion?
May I ask, would staff be comfortable if we approved this with a condition that the 3 awnings remain, and then the applicant and the building owner can work out how to accommodate that? We approve the square footage with the requirement that there be 3 awnings there.
Yeah, if
and without necessarily talking about the exact placement of the height of the awnings and the placement of the sign. We approve the square footage and the requirement that there be 3 awnings, and then leave the exact placement to you. Would that be okay?
I think that's acceptable. Yeah.
That would be agreeable, Madam Chair and Commissioner Billups. Again, presuming there are no modifications to the awnings, color, size, type, things like that, I'm assuming that would be part of your motion or your condition, is that they would, you're not looking at modifying the awnings per se, just perhaps.
But perhaps the placement of them.
Okay. All right.
Because I also could foresee maybe taking that middle awning and maybe moving it over so it's over one of the beige windows instead of, so you've kind of got an awning, a blank, an awning, a blank, an awning, a blank, or something like that. You still got something to break up that monotony.
So the reference would be to retain the 3 awnings as originally approved in the site plan.
Right, but the placement of them could be altered to allow for the sign square footage that we're approving. I'll figure out how to put that in a motion. But
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is it possible we could have them come back to us with a plan, something that we could look at another time that maybe we all can agree on and not rush judgment into this situation?
I'm sorry.
Opening pretty soon. Oh, they're opening.
You had
in
a
couple
comment?
weeks.
Yeah,
All
we
right, go
can
ahead,
always
let's-
table this
Yeah. And have them come back with.
and have them come back in 2 weeks with a design. I just hate to hold Johnny's up.
That's what I was thinking. But then if we can't get it to work out, we're not ones to know whether they can change or they want to change
Yeah.
placement.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
the real solution to this is have a smaller sign.
That would work. Go to a smaller sign. Well, they're asking for 189. Staff has recommended to go down to 184, reducing it 5 square feet. So we could reduce it. If they went to the regular 84, which is a lot smaller, it'd probably fit above the awnings.
Yeah, I understand that he wants to, and I agree that the 84 square feet would get lost on that wall. There's no question about that. But I hate to give up the architectural element, just like we said. The sign ordinance says that we're not supposed to cover up an architectural element, and removing it is the same as covering it up.
Right.
Well, we're going to have more of these come along as more tenants occupy. So if we hold a standard, an architectural standard, that's already been approved, then we won't.
Once we start allowing elements to be covered up or removed, we're going to have to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. So I'm okay with leaving staff to approve the placement if they're okay with it, so we can get it approved. And if that isn't agreeable to everybody, then I'd rather table it to have them come back with an alternate plan, one of the two. But that's just me.
Any more discussion?
I'm okay with either, but I'm kind of leaning towards the first for the sake of time, so that we don't hold Johnny's up from being able to open and get their sign up there.
Would that interfere with you opening?
Do you want to come forward? You'll need to talk into the mic. And give me your name if you would.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Louis Reeder, and I own Johnny's, and we're looking forward to being a part of Blue Springs, coming here. And we would be happy to do whatever the staff and the landlord and the architecture firm, if we could work with them to find placements for the awnings to address your concerns and be able to fit the sign like we have. We'd be happy to do that.
That would be really good. All right. Anyone, would you like to ask any questions?
Again, like I said before, we're glad you're coming. I don't want to hold you up. I'm really looking forward to it, but
Great.
I don't want to mess the other part up too.
Absolutely. We thought we have spoken with the landlord, and we thought removing one sign, one awning, the landlord was fine with that. But I understand your concerns for the 3 awnings. But if we work with staff to put the awnings where the landlord would like them, or first of all, where the staff would like them, where the landlord can be happy with that, and with the architecture firm, and then Johnny's happy with that, we will do that.
Any questions, any comments? Okay, are you okay going down to the 184 square feet?
If we have to, we just would like to have that visibility on Highway 7, and the facade, we have signs, and 10% of the facade is what we are used to. We've done that in the past, so we thought we are going to only be taking 5.4% of the facade. We thought that would work, that we wouldn't have any issues here, but I do see your issues about the awnings, and we will take care of that, but we would like to keep the sign that size if we could.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I think it should have left the same 5 foot. That's not going to make that much difference if they move the.
But they're going to be over the maximum allowed for the development. You're all right with that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for him? Then I would, have anybody else have any comments up here? And I would entertain a motion. Anybody has one?
Madam Chair, I'll see if I can do this.
Okay. Let's see.
I would move for approval of ASB 09176027 with the 2 staff conditions and changing and adding a 3rd condition that the 3rd awning be retained with the placement to be approved by staff.
All right, staff?
Is that staff okay with that?
Be happy to work with the owner and applicant, tenant, and architect firm, certainly.
And I think we've kind of discussed several ways that could be accomplished, whatever is agreeable to them.
We'll certainly
leaving the
happy to work
sign,
with
That's reducing it to the 184.
That's reducing it to the 5, so we're within guidelines. But you have a motion on the floor, so I want to
Yes, that's including the reduction to 184 because that's the 2nd staff condition.
Yeah. You're going to leave the 2 and the 3rd?
The other 2 can be moved if they need to be moved so that they're consistent, if they all need to be lowered a little bit or if they need to be spread out.
Okay, now you want to repeat your motion? So
My
that I
motion is to
understand.
approve the alternate sign plan with the 2 conditions and an additional 3rd condition to retain the 3rd awning placement to be a placement of the sign and the awnings to be approved by staff.
Placement of the sign and awnings to be approved by staff?
Yes.
And what about the owner and the...
Well, they're going to have to go to staff to get those things approved. So.
Okay. It's fine. Thank you. Do you understand that one? You understand that, staff?
Yes, ma'am. Excellent.
Okay. Better make sure you all know. All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Casey? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
All right. Motion carried. That, I appreciate it. That will... then you can work with staff if that's all right. I thank you very much. All right, now we'll go to other business. The next scheduled meeting is October the 23rd. On Monday, October the 23rd, we meet at 6:30. Do you have any comments or anything any other business, sir?
Indeed I do, Madam Chair. Currently scheduled for the October 23rd agenda. This first item may be continued, I believe, further. That's the Tidal Wave Auto Spa. Has already been continued. That's for the former Ponderosa site, immediately west of the new Quick Trip at 40 and 7. They are still working out some of the traffic issues related to that site, so that may be continued. I'll have that confirmed here hopefully soon. Some other items, a number of final plats coming forward as well. Another phase of the Estates at Chapman Farms, which is the larger lot subdivision, the west side of 7, just north of Colburn, as well as another phase of Parkway Estates, and also the Tequesta Village final plat. They're doing a lot of dirt work out there. If you've seen that, that's the AA and Sunnyside townhome development. That's gone through several approvals here already, so looking at some final plats here coming up for the next meeting. Additionally, I do want to make a note, tomorrow night at the Blue Springs South High School Library from 6 to 8, we'll be having our, I guess, kind of summary or wrap-up meeting on the C2 area plan, or specific plan. Back in July, we had 2 neighborhood meetings and got some input through a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And staff has been hard at work putting those, kind of summarizing those comments and synthesizing, distilling them, as you will, and we'll be presenting our findings tomorrow night. So certainly anybody's welcome to attend that. Certainly specifically those folks who live in that area. That's the area south of I-70, north of Moreland School Road, and east of 7 Highway. But again, at Blue Springs South High School Library at 6 to 8 tomorrow night. And also, again, remind you that next Wednesday through Friday, as of next week, Commissioner Peel, Commissioner Fairbanks, and Mr. Jury and I will be attending the annual state planning conference over in St. Louis. So look forward to a number of good speakers, a lot of great topics and tracks on that as well, a lot of compressed learning within the course of essentially 2 to 2.5 days. So final item I do want to make mention as well will be Wednesday, October 25th, that morning at the CJC Fire District Training Center. We'll be having our next developers workshop. So we'll be getting some invitations out to those in the development community who've been actively participating, permitting and applications and such here over the last year to 2 since our last developers workshop. So we look forward to presenting some updates that have occurred over the last 2 years since we last held that event. I believe if Ms. Fedora has anything else, I think that covers all the items we have here coming up on the calendar here in October. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Billups.
October is a very busy month for downtown, so I have to keep everybody posted here. Monday, a week from today, October 16th, is the annual chili luncheon I have tickets in my hand if anybody's interested. They are $8 in advance, $10 at the door, from 11 to 1 at Pizza Shop, and you can eat it there or you can have it to go, either way. There is also on October 19th, which is Thursday evening, where Downtown Alive is going to be having a dedication ceremony for the 2 pieces of artwork that have been installed for a while now. It's going to start at 6 p.m. at the Dandy Bloom artwork, which is the one in the city parking lot at 11th and Main. And we'll dedicate that one. And then we'll move over to the other artwork in Central Park, and the depot will also be open so everyone can see the progress that's being made on that at the time. So that starts at 6 o'clock on the 19th. On the 28th, for the younger residents, we'll have Trick or Treat Main Street from 10 to noon. Always very popular and very busy. And something new in the evening on the 28th, Downtown Alive is sponsoring what they're calling a haunted pub crawl, which is going to visit several locations in downtown Blue Springs and talk about paranormal activity and all that good stuff. That goes from 7 to 11 on the 28th.
Goodness.
And there are only a very limited number of tickets available for that event, so.
Because you have to crawl.
Because they're traveling in groups with a tour guide, so there are a limited number of tickets for that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if
Yes,
I may
sir.
add one more item.
Oh, yes.
Not to trump Commissioner Billups, but I know because Commissioner Cradolph and Commissioner Casey are actively involved with recent work on the Solid Waste Management Commission. So I do want to make note that next Wednesday, the 18th, at 6:30 in the Jernigan Room, just down the hall here, will be the next Solid Waste Management Commission meeting. So again, that too is open to the public, and it's going to operate a little bit like a work session to kind of work on some concepts and ideas that a lot of folks have been presenting over the last month or two with related to trash service in the city, recycling, so on and so forth. So certainly, since 2 of our commissioners have been actively involved in that, I want to make note of Solid Waste Management Commission meeting next Wednesday, 18th, 6:30, just down the hall, Jernigan Community Room. And Mr. Wright is our staff representative with that commission. So if you have any questions, certainly let us know on that as well.
I see a lot of social media on the sanitation pickup, and the recycling was a big issue, so good job, keep working at it. I mean, things will get resolved somehow. So, or get better, or whatever we need to do.
A lot of work ahead, but a lot of folks are eager and excited to be a part of that. If you are as well, certainly please feel free to attend. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? And thank you for going and representing us in St. Louis. Who's going? Aren't you going?
Mr. Peel's going. And
to the Missouri? To Missouri, yeah.
I'm leaning back here
Maybe
because
you
I'm not going.
I thought, boy, maybe you forgot already. Okay, is there any other comments or input? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Good night.